therapeutic teaching that you will receive tonight. So without further delay, let's go ahead and move on to the next phase of our program by bringing up the Assistant Minister here at Mosque Mariam, one of the sons of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Minister Muhammad. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, the one God who came to us in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, to whom all praise is due forever, for raising up in our midst a divine leader, a divine teacher, and a divine guide in the personage of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I am forever grateful and thankful to Allah and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad for leaving a divine warner, a divine guide, a mercy from both of them to the black man and woman of America today, the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. In their holy and righteous names, I greet you, my beloved brothers and sisters, with the greeting words of peace in the Arabic language. Assalamu alaikum. How are you feeling? Well, you look as good as you say that you feel, and that is good, and it feels good that we all come together feeling good about ourselves, having the Spirit of Allah upon us. And with that opening words, this is a day where all of us should be happy. You may say, why should you be happy, Brother Minister? Why? Is this a time to be happy? Yes. Your 400-year-old enemy is catching hell, and his world is going down. That makes any black man who has suffered more than any other people on the planet to want to jump up and celebrate and be in great joy and happiness, because Babylon the Great is falling, falling, falling. The black man and woman today must be happy, because not only is his old enemy falling and dying every day, but he's blessed with what other nations hope to be blessed with, and that is with the presence of God. That is with a divine leader, a messenger from among us to guide us through this time and through this dark hour of the world. Black man and black woman, when we say happy, we mean happy. You should be smiling today, not to be overcome by the forces of evil that are on their way out. You have to think new today. And when you think new, and when you think beyond this present world that is on its way out, you begin to reflect the wisdom, the knowledge, the light, the spirit, the heart, the joy of a God that he is honored and privileged and feels great, great happiness to remove an enemy that has been on the planet for 6,000 years. But 6,000 years is not no long period of time. Not in the black man's history. We've been here trillions of years. So 6,000 years is like a blink in the time of the original man. It's just a blink. So now that we've had this piece of dirt in our eye, which has been the white man, we blink. We've been blinking for a long time. Now God has blessed us to know how to wipe it out and begin to look forward. Isn't that beautiful? All praise is due to Allah. We are very honored and blessed this evening to have one of the, I would say, my personal opinion, what I know of my brother, one of the most powerful ministers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and now the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, with us this evening. As you know, brothers, the Nation of Islam has always produced powerful leadership. Is that right? Leaders that you have seen out in the forefront, in the spotlight, Malcolm X and the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, but the nation is so rich and so full that neither one of these men could not have been great as they are or were if it were not for the supporting cast that made these men so great. You see, we benefit by the wisdom and knowledge that each one of us possess. And unless we value the God-gifted talent that is sitting right next to you, that you can learn God through your brother next to you. You can learn God through the sister next to you. So while I'm talking to you, you're getting closer to God. And the closer that you become to God, the closer you become to each other as a family, then you're able to converse with each other and you are able to extract the wisdom and knowledge that God has put in every one of us. So the Nation of Islam has produced nothing but leaders, and with a strong supporting cast. This is beautiful. And I am very honored to be a part of such a strong, strong movement in America. I don't know how many of you, those that are in Islam and those of you who will be a part of this, if it be the will of Allah, after tonight, but there hasn't been a group of people or an organization or a church that you have ever been a part of in your life that offers you what this mosque, what the Nation of Islam offers to you as an individual. I challenge any one of you. There isn't a church where you could benefit in a righteous way from the gifts and talents of God that is sitting next to each other, and that we learn the value of self. No church or organization has it. This is why the Nation of Islam stands in the forefront of all black movements, all churches, all organizations. There's nothing like the Nation of Islam. I just say that as an opening. So that with Allah's grace, we can learn and appreciate the value of each other. And this is what Jesus wanted most. This is what Muhammad wanted most. This is what all the prophets wanted most. Elijah Muhammad wanted that most. That we show that we love him. If we say that we love God, if we love the messenger and we say we appreciate them, then God doesn't judge how you say in lip profession how much you love him. He wants to see how much you love him through loving your brother, through loving your sister, through respecting one another and appreciating one another. That shows God that we really appreciate him, the Most High, by loving and appreciating and giving thanks to Allah for one another. This is the mighty black family. So, without further ado, the minister that I'm going to introduce to you this evening is not a stranger to any of us. He's given many names, great historian, great debater. This brother has so much experience. He could sit here, he could give us a 6-hour lecture tonight, very easy, because he has seen so much. The rise and the fall of the nation. He has seen great men rise and fall within the nation. And he has survived through all of these years. For what? That we could extract from him what God has blessed him to see with his eyes, that he can bestow upon us. That knowledge and that wisdom of experience. Not just experience, but a whole lot of knowledge that he has gained because this man has been with my father. I envy him a little bit. I wish I could have had those little times. Not envy in the negative. Don't y'all take this back. You know how we are. Minister Ishmael said he envies Minister Abdul. No, that's in the loving way. When he tells me of the conversations that he had with my father, I go, ooh. I try and put myself inside of him so that I can feel what was exchanged between my father and himself. Because he was walking with my father gave him many instructions, many valuable keys to knowledge, and he became one of my father's best ministers during the 60s. There were two men, as I learned the other day, that were in the forefront. In fact, when there were debates across this country with the white scholars, with the so-called wise of America, sometimes they had a big decision to make, either saying at that time, Brother John Shabazz, minister, or Malcolm X. So you about to listen to a man that walked with Malcolm and just was a big man on the West Coast, working out of St. Louis, working out of Los Angeles, working out of New York, out of Atlanta, here in Chicago. This is a wonderful brother. So open your ears and get ready to hear a subject that he laid out for us this evening, nothing from nothing. Let us please receive our dear brother, Brother Minister Abdul Allah Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum. In the name of Allah, who came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, we forever praise and thank him for raising up the exalted Christ, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and for the messenger of Allah in our midst, the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. How are my brothers and sisters tonight? Praise is due to Allah. I'm fine by His grace. And I want to ask a question. Why do I get the feeling that I'm talking to an FOI class with the sisters observing? It's a funny configuration, brothers and sisters. Please, I'm not one to give orders even if I had the authority. Let me ask you a favor. If I ever teach in this particular spot again, let us please arrange the chairs so that the rostrum is directly in the center between the brothers and the sisters. Those of you who saw the flyer or got it through word of mouth, you know that my subject tonight is entitled Nothing from Nothing. And I was surprised to find how many, especially of the very young that I talked to, knew exactly where that title came from. And to my surprise, this morning, early on the radio, the disc jockey played a Billy Preston record. It wasn't that one, but I said, you know, things just seem to be falling in place. I must have chosen the right thing. But as those of you who remember Billy's record, you remember that his record said, nothing from nothing leaves nothing. Now, Billy's a good man. I understand, as all of you do, I know. He's having a few legal difficulties now based upon his personal problems. But I pray Allah that he will come out of them and overcome them, because though 99, at least 99 and 44, 100% of the Muslims in the nation do not know it, Billy Preston has made great contributions to the rise and further of Islam, and we'll always remember him for that. But now, the reason that I did not put the rest of the title on there is because Billy Preston the song that he sang was absolutely correct mathematically according to the mathematics by which we live today. But those of you who were at the banquet on Saturday night and heard the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, he talked about a new education, a different education that would put us in a different condition and a different position than the old education has put us in. And the very basis and foundation, as he pointed out, was a different mathematics. Since mathematics is the foundation of everything, you can't have the same old tired mathematics and come up with a new education, which means you can't come up with a new position or a new condition. So it begins with math. So when I use nothing from nothing, we're going to deal with what that produces in the new mathematics and not in the old mathematics of this old, tired world. The mathematics that the Honorable Louis Farrakhan is a direct representative of is so different from anything we've ever seen, yet the minute that we encounter it, we know it's right. In Muhammad University of Islam, where all of you with any children should have your children, believe me, that's where they need to be. Because what they're learning in the other schools is on its way out to be replaced, and we are supplying the replacement. Let me illustrate to you how powerful the mathematics that the Honorable Louis Farrakhan teaches is. I was speaking to some students at one of the most prestigious colleges, not only in the United States, but in the world. And there was a bunch of mathematics majors there, all of them white. And we got so tired, or they got so tired up, I was still straight, but they got so tired up into our mathematics discussions until they sent for the chairman of the mathematics department with his PhD in this world's mathematics. So I welcomed him, thanked him, and then I asked him in front of all of his students, was he familiar with the Great Pyramid of Egypt? Out of all the pyramids, there's one they call the Great Pyramid. He said, yes. I said, well, as a mathematician, I know you've studied it well. He said, of course. So I asked him, I said, sir, what is the inch that we use to measure based on? He said, it's based on the pyramid inch. I said, all right. I said, sir, if you took a yardstick or a ruler, such as we use in your school, and you went around the base of the pyramid and measured it, would it come out even? He said, no. I said, why is that, sir? He said, because we do not know the exact length of a pyramid inch. So the inches that we use to build these great skyscrapers and all that sort of stuff is based on an approximation. There's no exact knowledge that goes into the building of them. Think about that. So I said, sir, since you have studied the pyramid, and since they are the ones who set the tone for the inch and you've never been able to come up to it, let me ask you a few more questions, a couple of more questions about the pyramid. You know how it's built. Could the builder of the pyramid have built it without knowing the exact value of pi? Pi, the Greek letter that they use, that's supposed to be 3.146 on into infinity, and into infinity because they say they don't know the exact value. I asked him, could that pyramid have been built without the builder knowing the exact value of pi? He said it could not have been built. I said, sir, you taught us in mathematics that it's impossible in geometry through a formula to square a circle. He said, that's correct. I said, you also taught us that it's impossible to trisect an angle. He said, that's correct. I said, tell me, sir, could the builder of that pyramid have built that pyramid without being able to square a circle or trisect an angle? He said he never would have got it built. Here's a man admitting before his entire student body He's the master, no, the PhD in mathematics as they know it, and he's admitting that here's somebody over in Egypt that built something using a mathematics he had no comprehension of. Not only didn't know it, but he knew that he didn't know it. Had to admit he didn't know it. So what kind of math was that? That's a math that is contained in a library in Egypt that has 60,000 books, 60,000 volumes of nothing but mathematics and science. Now, those white Arabs that conquered Egypt, they don't know where it is, so there ain't no sense even asking them about it. They don't know nothing about it. When they conquered Egypt and took over from the black people who they call Nubians and moved them out and subjected them, then all that was hidden from them, but it's there. Now, this whole civilization was put together by 60,000 people 6,000 years ago. There were 60,000 people who got together and put together this civilization that we live in right now. But out of the 60,000, only one of them had the complete plan in his head. There were 59,999 who could do nothing but follow his lead, and because they did that faithfully, you have this great, powerful civilization today. Well, by the same token, or by a similar token, it's no coincidence that of those 60,000 books on science and mathematics that's there in the library in Cairo, I'll even narrow it down a little further than that, everything that this civilization, this white man knows about mathematics and science is contained in the first volume. There are 59,999 books of mathematics and science he has no knowledge of. That's why he can't explain how the pyramid was done and all of that. You know, they used to teach us all kind of stuff, and those of you who've been around long enough, you know they change every few years. After you uncover one lad, and they come up with another one. I really I have watched the Ten Commandments. Have you seen that movie on television? I watched it over and over. Every time it comes on, I get a chance, I look at it again. I was at the premiere. At that time, I was a theater editor of a newspaper when it came out. So I went to the premiere and I saw it. And it so enthralled me that every time I catch it, I watch it again. Because I can remember years of studying about the pyramid. And the big question was, how did those stones, those big old stones, get out there in the middle of a desert where there were no stones for many, many miles around? And they came up with all kinds of theories. You know, that the slaves dragged them across, which you knew was crazy. Some even tried, by the time I got to high school, they were even theorizing that they had a method of taking the sand and making the stones until somebody pointed out, first of all, that's not sandstone. It's more like granite. So they obviously did not make it out of the sand that was there. So finally, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, in one of his articles, answered their question. He said they cut the stones where they were and moved them there by hydraulics. Cecil B. DeMille, when he made his movie, showed for the first time publicly the same thing. He showed them taking those stones, using water, and making a hydraulic system to move those stones along. Just to show you that our stuff is so superior, that's where they have to get it from. Now, what is the... See, why did I know that this mathematician had studied the pyramids? Why do you think the pyramid's on the dollar bill? The Great Pyramid, as it's called, listen carefully. The Honorable Louis Farrakhan has pointed out to us that where that pyramid stands is the exact center of the landmass of the planet Earth. There's a star that appears in the sky every 50,000 years. And when that star comes, if you walk in the pyramid, there's a shaft that goes straight up to the point. And if you look up there, you can look directly at that star. It hovers in that exact spot once every 50,000 years. That's how exact the placement of the pyramid is. Now, in order to know where the center of something is, you have to know its size, don't you? And according to mathematics, particularly according to geometry and trigonometry, if something's too big for you to physically measure, the only way that you can calculate its size, you got to first know its shape. Is that right? You have a different formula for finding the area of a triangle than you do a rectangle, and a different way of finding the area of a circle. That's in plane geometry. Then when you get into solid geometry, you don't find how big a sphere is, a solid sphere, the same way you do a circle. You have a different way of doing it, a different formula altogether. So in order for these Egyptians to be able to determine the exact center of the land mass of the earth, they couldn't believe, like them dumb crackers were telling Columbus, you're going to fall off the edge. They couldn't believe the earth was flat. They had to already know that the earth was round or spherical. In fact, the term, the name, geometry, comes from the word geos, meaning earth, and meter, meaning measure. Geometry, the science of geometry, is based upon the measurements of the earth. Now, when you and I went to school, some of you still going, but if you are, they're teaching you geometry. The geometry they're teaching you, no matter what school you go to, they're teaching you what they tell you is Euclidean geometry. Is that correct? Now, the word Euclidean is an adjective. That's a word that's used to describe something in order to distinguish it from something else that you might get it mixed up with if they didn't. So to say Euclidean geometry means that's to keep you from getting it confused with another geometry that is non-Euclidean. But why is it that you only know Euclidean geometry? If there is another geometry, and there has to be, why is it that you can't go to a school and learn it? I looked in the Encyclopedia Britannica, and the one that I looked in, I wanted to make sure that I was on sound ground from white scholars' standpoint, is the one that all the scholars agree is the greatest version of Encyclopedia Britannica that's ever been printed. Okay? It's the 9th edition, printed in 1890. A lot of stuff in it they've snatched out since then. That's why it's still the greatest. Britannica says Euclid was a discoverer and a compiler. Well, now, they would have us believe that Euclid is the father of geometry. If you discover something, that means it was already there. If you compile something, that means you just pulled together something that already existed. So if Euclid was a discoverer and a compiler, he didn't create nothing. Now, it goes on to say, as the introduction of geometry into Greece is by common consent attributed to Thales. You ever heard of Thales? Oh, they didn't tell you about Thales. Now listen to this. He's the one that introduced them to it, but they tell us about Euclid. So all are agreed that to Pythagoras is due the honor of having raised mathematics to the rank of a science. Now look at this. We're learning Euclidean geometry. They're saying that it was introduced by Thales of Miletus, you can look it up. It was introduced by Thales and then perfected by Pythagoras, but they don't teach us about nobody but Euclid, who learned from Pythagoras, who learned from Thales. And who did Thales learn from? Praise is due to Allah. Yes. Pythagoras, I want to show you a parallel now. We'll bring this right up to date. Pythagoras took geometry. This is what they mean they raised it to the level of a science. He didn't just look at it as a bunch of numbers, but they called it number. They didn't call it mathematics at that time. They called it number. But Pythagoras examined that thing and he said, number is great and perfect and omnipotent, and the principle and guide of divine and human life. This is what he thought of mathematics. All right, let's hear what the Honorable Louis Farrakhan said. Islam is mathematics, and mathematics is Islam, and can be proven in no limited time. Sound like they're kind of saying the same thing. If Islam is entire submission to the will of God, and mathematics is Islam, and Islam is mathematics, then submission to God must depend upon a mathematical formula. The wisdom of God has to have a mathematical base. Pythagoras even dealt with the power of numbers and where it got its power. I want to show you again, comparison. He pointed out that there are two kinds of numbers, odd and even. And because they are opposite, the interrelation of them is what gives numbers their power. The Honorable Louis Farrakhan talks about the power in the universe, and he speaks of it as a collection of dialectics. Have you ever heard him say that? Dialectics. That's what makes up everything. You got right and left, good and evil, masculine and feminine, limited and unlimited, straight and crooked, rest and motion, light and darkness, singular and plural. Everything has an opposite. Now, I want to tell you what happened to this teaching of Pythagoras. Now remember, I just got through drawing a parallel. What Pythagoras was saying in his crude way, what the Honorable Louis Farrakhan is breaking down to us in a very refined and detailed way. They didn't do anything to Pythagoras. But when Pythagoras got old and retired to his home, the Greek government went every place that they knew people were gathering and learning Pythagoras' teaching. They not only killed the people, they tore down the building. Even if it was just a house with a family, if they were in there talking Pythagoras talk, the government sent their soldiers in, they would kill the people and burn down or tear down the house. How dangerous that kind of teaching was to that civilization. Well, now here we are in an extension of that civilization. If you studied world history, you know that America points all of Western, the white folks. Europe and America point their roots to Greece. Is that correct? Back to Rome, through Rome to Greece. So now, if Pythagoras was treated that way because he was a threat then, how do you think the Honorable Louis Farrakhan is viewed now? But they have another scheme for him to try and defeat his purpose. They spent a lot of time and a lot of effort inculcating us with the Bible. And they know that we can't grow up in America without having some knowledge of it and some belief in it. So the Jews, some of y'all say, oh, anti-Semites. I'll be anti-Iraq if it threatens us. The Jewish press newspaper, dated Friday, August 14, 1992, just 5 days ago. In this article, the Jews are talking about their plan to rewrite the Bible. Why? Since they claim they don't believe in it, they're Jews. This is the Christian Bible, but they know we're not Jews. They know the bulk of our people are Christians and that we go by what that Bible says. But that Bible says a whole lot of things that the Jews can't be comfortable with, especially when the Honorable Louis Farrakhan says it. So, according to the Jewish press, and I quote, to prevent future Louis Farrakhans and radical right-wing racists from inciting the unwary to hatred of Jews, many prominent theologians and scholars are recommending that future Bible translations be clarified. They're going to retranslate it now because of our leaders. Charles Obrecht of the Institute of Christian Jewish Studies in Baltimore states that changing the text from the Jews to the Judean leaders would be a good idea. Eh? Because if you understand the Bible, and you can't sit under the Honorable Louis Farrakhan and not begin to see that bad boy for what it is. And when you look in there and see what the Bible really says about the Jews, then you see them for the first time as they really are. So now because the Honorable Louis Farrakhan has exposed them, now they want to go back and change the book. And where it says Jews, they want to change and make it generic, the Judeans. There's people who live in Judea, and they might be Arabs. They had some Africans living in Judea. They had folks from all over the world living in Judea. So it wasn't the Judeans, it was the Jews that hated Jesus and that lynched Jesus. James H. Charlesworth, professor of New Testament at Princeton Theological Seminary. Not cemetery, but that's what it is. He says, they quote him in here, the Jews must be translated more representatively, such as Judeans, Jewish authorities, or the priests in Jerusalem. But it was the Jews. See, I know that all of us have been taught that the Roman soldiers crucified Jesus. That ain't what the Bible says. The Bible says Pontius Pilate turned them over to the Jews. Now, anytime there's a big crowd going on that is not sanctioned by the government, they're going to put some officers there for crowd control, right? That don't mean they're taking part in what's going on, the demonstration or whatever. They're there for crowd control, see that it doesn't get out of hand. Can't you see that there would be Roman soldiers there if the Jews getting ready to lynch one of the people? Well, they said, no, but they had a whole bunch of Roman soldiers. Read your Bible. You want to know how many Roman soldiers were at the crucifixion? Read the story of the crucifixion in the Bible. Didn't it say that they cast lots to see who was going to get his robe? And didn't it say they finally decided they would divide it? Didn't it say that every Roman soldier got a piece of it? And didn't it say they tore it in 4 parts? How many Roman soldiers were there? It's plain. So this is why 2,500 years after Pythagoras, the folks that tried to destroy his movement without bothering him is trying to do the same thing to the Honorable Louis Farrakhan today. Now, Thales, this is what the Britannica says about Thales of Miletus. Universally recognized as the founder of Greek geometry, astronomy, and philosophy. He never had any teacher except during the time when he went to Egypt and associated with the priests. Now, this is the man that brought geometry to the white world. Geometry, astronomy, and philosophy. But he went to the temple in Alexandria, and that's where he studied. Now, just want to show you a contrast between that which we are taught by the Honorable Louis Farrakhan and that which we were taught by our enemies. There's a sign, you have it on your computers and you have it in mathematics. It means greater than, right? It means that the one over here is greater than the one over there. Now, if you put a 1 here and put a 5 there, every mathematician in white Western civilization would tell you you got that wrong. You got that backwards. You say, well, Professor, why? I said, no, 5 is greater than 1. Is that so? Let's find out if 5 is greater than 1. In mathematics, there is a thing called a syllogism. And it's stated in words that things equal to the same thing are equal to each other. Is that correct? If A equals B and B equals C, then A equals B. Because they're both equal to B. If they're equal to the same thing, they got to be equal to each other. Okay? We're together, right? Let's take that syllogism further. We say, Allahu Akbar, right? God is the greatest, right? We also say there is no God but Allah. God is one, right? If God is the greatest and God equals one, then one is the greatest. Come on now, let's can't deny mathematics. That's mathematics. Now, we do a little back up on it, though, just so you won't be nervous about it and think we just pulled the trick. Which is greater? Something that is dependent or something that is independent? Independent, right? Okay. Now here's that 5 again. Believe me, that's a 5. Trust me. So one thing I never did good in this school was penmanship. I can do better than that. Somebody might just be walking in the door and say, hey, who's on to me? Okay. There's that 5 again. Is it dependent or independent? Dependent. Because you can't get to 5 without starting at what? And you take another one, and you get up to 5. But 1 don't need the 5. 1 doesn't wait for the 2 to come into existence. 1 doesn't need the 9, doesn't need the 8, doesn't need the... 1 is independent of all of them. Tell me it's not the greatest. Islam is mathematics, and mathematics is Islam, and can be proven at no limit of time. We thank Allah for the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, his messenger. Now we're going to conclude where we began. Nothing from nothing. Now, when I was talking to this department head, I threw something on him that I did not get at Howard University, where I went briefly, St. Louis University, where I blinked my eye. You know, I got it visiting a 3rd grade class at Muhammad University of Islam. Not high school, a 3rd grade class, and they were teaching our babies some mathematics. And it blew my mind because it blew everything I'd ever heard about zero. Because we had always been taught that zero was nothing. Now look at this. 0 is nothing. Now, if that were true, then yes, nothing from nothing would leave nothing. Billy would be right on the case. But let me show you something. Here's 0. Supposed to be nothing. Now here's 1 that is the greatest of all numbers. Now that 1 by itself is worth what? 1. You put a 0 behind it, it becomes 10 times as powerful. How can nothing multiply something by 10? How can nothing do it? No, it couldn't. 0 has a value. It has to have a value, or it could not increase the value of another number. Well, what gives it its value? It does not have value in and of itself by itself. It has value in itself, but it must be acted upon in order for the value to become apparent. So you see what happened here. Put a 1 in front of it. Now, this is what God has done for us today. Those of you who are sitting here and standing here tonight, we are all blessed. Because we were nothing. With all the potential we got, we were nothing. But Allah took one of the nothings. And if you take a 0 and straighten it out, it becomes a 1. And once God straightened that 1 out, all the other zeros have nothing to do to realize power but line up behind him. And every time we line up, as fast as we line up behind that 1, the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, the more powerful black people grow. This is why they fear him so. Now, let me say this. Whether you're brand spanking new or whether you've been in a long time, let me tell you where you lose your power. Think that you got power and you don't. And most of us have been guilty of this around long enough at one time or another. Now you see that 1 and you know the power that it can give to all the zeros. As many zeros as you can string behind it, that's how much more powerful that it can make them. But what happens when you do this? What happens when the 0 gets in front of the 1? Nothing. That's right, brother. You say if it's got a decimal point, it gets even less, doesn't it? Hey, this brother just gave you, will y'all excuse me? I got to take an extra 5 minutes. Brother here just gave me another portion of the lecture that I need to address. See, when a decimal point is involved, not only getting in front of the 1 doesn't help, it hurts. Because whereas it was a 10th, you just made it a 100th. You made it less than it was to begin with. Well, there's a spiritual message in that too. What is the decimal point? What is that point? That is the point that separates you from being a fraction and a whole number. And if you cross that point, then you become whole. Well, now you got the 1 ready to lead you across that point. Now you jump in front of the 1, you go across the point, you still ain't nothing. But that's where we are today, brothers and sisters. The enemy would love for us to believe that nothing from nothing leaves nothing. The reason is because as Negroes, we have been nothing. I get what you call yourself, African American, or all them other funny things. You're colored boy. You know, what's the difference? Change your name, your condition don't change. Now, what in the, pardon me, what the world is that? I mean, you stop and think about that. No. What that big old Billy Shakespeare says? A rose by any other name still smells as sweet. A skunk by any other name is still stinking or something. Anyway, we were nothing. I bear witness. I'm, not ashamed of it. We were nothing. Now, to make sure we stayed nothing, our enemy kept giving us nothing. Eh? He put a liquor store on every corner and a tavern in between, and then served wine at sacrament in the church. In the name of Jesus. What is the benefit of alcohol? What does it contribute to you physically, mentally, or spiritually? Nothing, right? Cigarettes. Over 1,000 people every day in America die from just smoking cigarettes. Did you know that? Over 1,000 every time the sun rises in America, over 1,000 people die from cigarettes alone, not cigarettes and something else. Not, fire flying in their face while they're driving to make them have a wreck. We ain't even counting those. We count those that die from diseases they get from smoking cigarettes. So that's less than nothing, right? Drugs, other than alcohol and tobacco. What do they give you? Can't live off of them. Nothing. You take the alcohol, you take the drugs to forget your problems. When you wake up, you got more problems. The money you spent, you probably worried about your bills. You just spent some money. You could have paid one of them trying to buy some liquor and some dope. You worried about your domestic life. Your woman was already mad at you. Now you're broke. She's 10 times salty. What we call food that we put in our body doesn't add anything to our bodies but misery and pain. The junk food we eat is not just potato chips and popcorn. The food that we call wholesome meals is junk. Do me a favor, brothers and sisters. Just right through the heart of our community. You don't have to look at different stuff. Look at the jewel. Look at the jewel and just look at the signs on the window. Just that. You don't even have to go inside. Look at the signs on the window of all the supermarkets in our neighborhood. Then drive way out on the north side and look at the same chain, Jewel or whichever one you're looking at, and see what they're advertising on their windows. Totally different. Why aren't they pushing the same thing in their neighborhood they're pushing in our neighborhood? Because it's for a different reason. They're pushing food to make their people live. They keep pushing food to us to make us still be nothing and to die. So, many of our people, you approach them with the teachings of the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. They say, yeah, man, I dig the brother, but you want to make us give up too much. You want to take away my good old ribs. Ooh, Yeah, cats don't even want you to have a taste. I mean, hey, man, dudes won't want me around if I want to at least smoke a little reefer. Now, I might not sniff no coke, but I have to smoke a little reefer with them or something. I mean, y'all want to take everything away. When we take away your alcohol, which is nothing, take away your drugs, which is nothing, take away your cigarettes, which is nothing, take away your garbage, which is nothing. Now, when we take all that away from you, you don't have nothing left. Look at what you have left. Look at these brothers. Stand up, sisters. Stand up, sisters. Just stand up a minute. Come on, don't be bashful. This is what you got. When you take, listen to me. When you take all the poison, all the slop, all the nothing away, you got the original black man, the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, the God of the universe. So nothing from nothing does not leave nothing. Nothing from nothing leaves God. Assalamu alaikum. So, beloved brothers and sisters, I want to thank you for your kind attention. Brother Shahid's there. Oh, the brother Minister Ishmael, he's back there. I'm going to turn, I don't know exactly how, you can tell how long it's been since I taught here. I don't know quite how the system works, but how many of you have the little pledge cards? Would you hold them up, please? Very good. All right. Okay. Well, then, brothers and sisters, I'm going to thank you for your kind attention, and I'm going to turn the meeting back into the hands of our host minister here of the mosque here, Mosque Mariam, here in Chicago, and the regional minister of the central region of the United States. And brother is young, but he's thirsty and hungry for what he can learn because he's got a love for our people that drives that to him, you know. And so you just stick with Brother Minister Ishmael Muhammad, and brothers and sisters, I guarantee you, you'll look around next year and say, how did we get this far, this fast? So brothers and sisters, I'd like to thank you and turn the meeting back to the hands of Brother Minister Ishmael Muhammad. Salaam alaikum.
Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Minister Abdul Muhammad. All praises due to Allah. How you feel? Did you learn a lot? I told you this. And Brother Minister Abdul, I mean, you just gave 45 minutes. Let's give Brother Minister Abdullah another warm round of applause. All praise is due to Allah. Brothers and sisters, I'm not going to give you a lecture. I'm going to let you go home and think about what was given to you. And Brother Daniel, the tape will be made available. But will we be able to purchase it this evening? No? Gonna hear a lot of boos. But it's Brother Daniel, I mean, not the den, let the believers know when can they get the tape. Tomorrow morning, at the final call, today's lecture will be made available, all right? And I suggest that all of us get it and study. But what you gained this evening, just keep rehearsing it in your head right now. And the best way that you can retain the information that you receive is when you leave here, you don't turn on a radio. You don't go home and look at TV, because that's going to interfere. And before you know it, you'll forget. In some cases, we lose everything that was given to us because we let the enemy come up inside of our head. It's true. So if I were you, I would just retain what was given to me and just go home and say a prayer and go to bed and sleep on it. It's early enough, so there's no excuse. All right? How many of you are here for the first time? Can we see your hands? Brothers, sisters? All praises due to Allah. And how many of you who are here for your first, second, or third time believe that what you heard taught this evening is the truth and is good for black people? Can I see your hand? And finally, we would like to ask you, those of you who are here for your first, second, or third time, as Minister Abdullah was teaching this evening, you were listening to him, he was talking to you, but there's a conversation that he knows nothing about, that you were having. And we would like to ask you at this point, how many of you, after hearing the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught this evening, would like to become a part of the Nation of Islam and walk with Brother Farrakhan in establishing the kingdom of God here on earth? How many of you would like to be a member of the Nation of Islam? Raise your hand. All praise is due to Allah. Now, Brother Minister Abdullah, would You know, he did the teaching. So I would like those of you who want to be a part and be a member of the Nation of Islam and come on and help us to rebuild the nation and to build us a nation. Those of you who would like to become a member of the Nation of Islam, if you would just stand, sisters and brothers, and Brother Minister Abdul would be the first brother that will shake your hand in welcoming you to the Nation of Islam. Come on, just stand up, brothers, sisters, all those who want to become a member of the Nation of Islam, just come right forward. Let's give our brothers a warm round of applause. All praises due to Allah. Thank you, Brother Minister. And fill out that pledge card, dear brothers, and those sisters who may have been a little bashful, felt a little shy. They didn't want to come up. Just fill out your card and you can turn it in to the secretary on your way out. And with that, let's see, is there anything else? Any announcements? Before we get to charity, before we get to those nickels and dimes that will help us to continue our efforts in rebuilding the nation. There's a wonderful crowd out this evening. Brother Minister Abdullah, we have to have you out more. It's wonderful to see us come out to hear truth.